It's Friday. We are live here on your channel. We're just streaming this to mine. So can't really complain, but there are things I want to complain about tonight.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, welcome to the show. Welcome, everybody. And let's start off. The Steelers, they're going in. They could have taken care of business last week against the Cleveland Browns, but no can do, no sirree done. It doesn't happen. They end up losing in a game that, I'll be honest, it kind of seemed like what Myles Garrett was kind of saying was true. He goes out there and says that it appeared that the Pittsburgh Steelers were more concerned about him not getting the sack record than they were actually winning the football game. And the way they were running the ball on 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, and some of the play calls, I tend to agree with him. I think that was very much what it felt like. What about you? What did you think about last week's performance against the Cleveland Browns?
I was ready to stop being a fan.
Don't blame me.
That was me, man. I'm not going to go on a rant like I easily could have last week, but it is, I think, one of the worst losses in the Tomlin era. And there's a lot of them, but for me, this is up there, given the reason of you're playing a 3-win football team, you only score 6 points, and all you have to do is win it to win your division. And the Steelers lose Sunday. That's going to be something that is going to be massively looked back on. It is an absolute travesty that they lost last week. It's embarrassing. They didn't need DK Metcalf, so I don't want to hear those excuses. This is a 3-win football team with Shadur Sanders as their quarterback, with a hurt tight end, with a hurt potential defensive rookie of the year. Their star rookie running back's injured. I don't want to hear it. This is a team that has been playing some of their best football the last month. And I don't want to hear no TJ Watt. This is a 3-win football team. This is a 3-win football team with a lot of rookies on this team. And if the Steelers were a serious playoff contender, they would have took care of business. But they didn't. Other teams in the league have taken care of business. Other teams in the league have taken care of business with other injuries. Cough, cough, the San Francisco 49ers, who, by the way, are playing for their number 1 seed this tomorrow night. There's no excuse. It was an absolute travesty of their loss last week, and it made me sick to my stomach to the point where I didn't want to be a fan anymore. It made me sick to my stomach where I genuinely didn't want to watch them going forward, which sadly I will, because that's what you do as a fan. But I was so disgusted. And the Steelers have poor losses yearly, but the Steelers were 4-1, and the Ravens were 1-5. Let's not forget about that. They did this to themselves. They put themselves in a situation to take this to the last week of the season to win their division. The Steelers got to 9-6. They beat the Ravens on the road in a big win. They go home and face the Miami Dolphins, who were winners of 4 or 5 games in a row. Who'd they play after that? Who am I blanking out on? Was it the Lions after that? Then they go on the road to face the Lions, which seemed like a scheduled L before the season started. And they won that game, and they outplayed Detroit for pretty much 55 minutes of the game.
I agree.
And then they go to Cleveland, a 3-win football team, and score 6 points. 6 points. There's no excuse for it. I don't want to hear any level of excuse for that loss. They did that to themselves. Now, if the Steelers win on Sunday night, it'll be forgotten about. But if they lose, it is not going to be. And that loss last week is exactly why many people want to go in a different direction, and are why many people want change, because that is a straight A Tomlin L last weekend. If they were serious contenders, they would have went in there and took care of business. Simple as that. Simple as that.
I don't disagree with you.
Going into this Sunday, but I'm sickened over it. And if they lose, I'm not going to throw a fit, because we can talk about our expectations coming into the season anyway. you can look at it and say, well, you know what? If you told me the Steelers were playing for their division the last week of the season against the Ravens, I'd take it. Sure, going into the season, you would have taken that, given the expectation for the Ravens. But the Ravens were 1-5, and Lamar Jackson hasn't been good this season, and the Ravens have been a disaster primarily throughout most of the year. And now you're playing for the last week of the year. So you can look at it like that, and that's fine. But when you look at it and break it down, being 4-1, 9-6, all you need to do is win against a 3-win football team. That was the problem.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you. And I think that when you look at what the Steelers did, you brought up some of the wins that they had and some of the momentum that they had gathered throughout that process, going beating the Ravens, taking that to the Dolphins, who were on a 4-game winning streak, the Lions, who, as you mentioned, were I think people were scheduling that an L even leading up to the game, regardless of it was before the season, during the season. Shoot, I think that if they were to play tomorrow, I think a lot of people would schedule that as an L for the Steelers. So, for them to go in there and do what they needed to do and take care of business, and then, like as you mentioned, go out and just drop an egg in Cleveland. And it's a common thing. I think somebody had put out a stat against teams that are at least 8 games under 500, which is remarkable. The Steelers are like 5-1 or something of that nature.
Yeah.
It is pathetic. It is poor. I mean, that is the definition of a head coach who is allowing their team to, go in there with their heads too high. This is this is a show of a lack of discipline, a show of a lack of leadership, and I think it boils down to the coach. I mean, there was times where if you go back to last season, he puts in Russ. What does he say to the, Russ wins a couple of games. What does he say to the press? Oh, well, that's why I'm heavily compensated. This year, he's asked the question, I'm assuming by Brooke, because he made a comment towards Brooke after the Lions game. Brooke asks him, how are you confident? He goes on to say, I'm sure you guys have written, bad articles and are still confident in your possibilities of doing work. Well, after the Lions game, a couple of weeks later, he yells out, that's why I'm confident, Brooke, apparently as he's walking away.
Yeah.
Those type of things, like, for one, it tells us that he's listening to the noise, because he's, and he remembers it, and he's keeping it to himself and keeping it, and he's got it in mind. But you look at the fact that so many times they've dropped the ball, against teams that they should have gone in there and won.
Yep.
That's just a sign of bad coaching.
And you could even, 100%. Everything you said was right. And you can even look back, if they just win one game out of like some of those games they lost this year, they wouldn't even be in this situation. Let's look at the Bengals game from Thursday night, where the defense couldn't do anything. Aaron played one of the best games of the season that game. Pat Frymuth had a monster game. And again, that's one prime. That's one example. Those games matter. And somebody said, "Oh, it's early in the season." When you look back at it, the game matters.
Yeah,
because they're not even sitting in this spot. They would have won it 2 weeks ago.
We'd be seeing Will Howard. Everybody got robbed the Will Howard experience from 2025-2026 season because of this.
If we did this Sunday night, it would have been a tantrum. I would have been popping off and everything. So it's past its course. And you know what? If they lose, they lose. It is what it is. Changes need to be made. Simple as that.
I personally wish they would have gotten this done already, because I'm going to the game if they make it to the playoffs. I'm going to be at the game. I already got my tickets lined up and everything else. And it sucks that I have to wait until Sunday night.
I think you're going to see a big tweet that says "Thank you, fans" at the end of the night, buddy.
Why do you say that?
I don't think they're going to win.
You don't think they're going to win at all?
No, I don't.
Well, there's a lot of controversy going back and forth with the fan base of both sides for the Baltimore Ravens and the Steelers when it comes to their head coach.
Yeah. Do
you think there's a world where the loser of this game that's upcoming, their head coach is a different person next year?
Yeah, I do. And it should be the case. With both teams are stale. Both teams have problems. The Ravens had very high expectations, not only this season, but they've had that for the last 6 years, and they have fallen short. They cannot get past the second round. They were the best team in the league in 2019, arguably last season. They have always been a Super Bowl favorite. They let Mike McDonald go to Seattle, who should have been the heir apparent there for John Harbaugh. They let him go. Zach Orr's been a disaster. Outside of last week, I mean, Derrick Henry's put up good numbers this season, but their run game has been mildly inconsistent other than the last couple weeks. They made a poor decision starting Cooper Rush for 3 straight games while Lamar was injured. So they have a lot of coaching issues themselves. And I think it's safe to say that I think both teams need to clean their coaching staff.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I really don't, and I wonder if that's going to end up being the case, because when it comes to the Steelers, I know a lot of people are going to say that Mike Tomlin's not going to go anywhere, they're not going to fire him, this, that, and the third. But I do believe that at a certain point, you have to you don't want to embarrass the organization. And the reason I say that and why I say that is because, for instance, if we were to look at the draft that's coming up in the next few months, that's going to be in Pittsburgh. I can almost guarantee you if the Steelers lose this game, and it's not something that happens down at the wire, where it's just a really high competitive game. But even at that, I think it's going to be this way. If the Steelers get blown out or if it starts to look bad early, the fire Tomlin chants are coming back out really quick. The boos are going to be out there. Yep. And is that something that you want to carry on into the offseason, into the draft? This is the first time that you get an opportunity to host something in the city of Pittsburgh for the NFL. They haven't been able to get the opportunity for a Super Bowl. They get a draft. This is really good for the city, and it's going to be publicized. And do you really want those images of the team being booed because of their choice or their decision or whatever the case may be made? Plus, you also have, like I mentioned, the fact that does Tomlin want to go through that? Does Tomlin want to get booed and all these other things? I'm sure there's organizations that are out there who the organization and the fan base would be much more appreciative at this point than the black and gold fan base. That's just what it is. I think majority, at least I would say at least more than 50% of the Steelers fan bases the fan base have gotten stale, gotten tired of Tomlin to a certain extent. And, I think, he can go out there. He could, the team could play really, really well. They could win 3 games in a row, drop 1 like they did, and they're back to square one because this has been old. It's old, and it's to the point where I think much of the fan base is just looking for any little reason, rightfully so, to this point, to just kind of be upset with the man and not have him there.
Yeah, it is old. It's old. It's stale. It's tiring. It's the same season in the last 8 years.
Yeah.
I mean, why do you want to continue to keep watching that? Of the team winning 9-10 games and either missing the playoffs by a game or losing the first round and losing key games through the year. I don't understand. Like you can look at teams and first year coaches and teams having success with that. So it's not a discredit to Mike Tomlin's career or what he's done. It's just simply, it comes to a point where everybody's time's up. And for whatever those reasons are, you can go through the list in terms of what those reasons are. But I just feel like that this season, most of the fan base is on the same page.
I do too. Now, if the Steelers go out there and perform, I know DK is not going to be a part of the game, but if the offense can go out there and put up 25 plus points and hold the Baltimore Ravens to under 15 points, and have a dominant performance, is it all ends well, be well? Is it okay? We made it to the playoffs. The Steelers are looking decent. They beat a team, or is it, how do you feel that, can there be, if the Steelers go out there and perform well, can Tomlin and the Steelers win over the fan base? I mean, I think winning a playoff game will definitely help, and I think that'll help everybody getting into the right position. But is that what it's going to take, is winning a playoff game or two for the fan base to be comfortable with even wanting him to come back as a coach?
Yeah, that's what it's going to take. Yeah. It's not going to be Sunday night. It's not going to be Sunday night. It's going to be beat the Texans at home because that would be the probable team.
Mm-hmm.
and go into round 2. That's what it's going to take, I think, for fans to be okay for at least another year of him.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's where I'm at as well. I think he's going to have to. If not, I think it's going to be because, I mean, that playoff game, if the Steelers make it, let's just say they go out there and they win, that playoff game is going to be in Acrisure. And so it's not like they're going to be able to hide behind the guys of an opponent's stadium with their fans in the building and not hear, the chants of the boos or the firing chants.
Right.
If things get out of hand really early in a playoff game and it starts to look like some of these playoff games the Steelers have had in the last few years, it's
It's
gonna be bad.
Yeah. But it's deserved. It's simply deserved. You could have won last week.
Yeah. I agree. They could have. I mean, if you hold the team down to 10 points and then you see the way the ball was being thrown by Shedeur Sanders, you should win that game. You really should.
What do you think of the Kyle Duggar play on that touchdown?
I know a lot of people wondering if he was on the take.
I was sold that his FanDuel account needed to be checked after that. I 100% sold on it.
Yeah. Well,
it looked very suspect. It looked very, very suspect to me.
It did. I'm not gonna lie. He may have just lost it though. But yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It looked very suspect.
Yeah, and I think there was a little bit of influence in that game from the league, but the Steelers had the opportunities to win the game.
Yeah,
because the NFL could have went to the officials and said to crack down on certain things because they know the potential of what they can have the following Sunday night. Not saying that the NFL is saying, make sure the Browns win or anything like that, because I don't think it works that way. But in today's sports, we know it's also entertainment. Things can be swayed 100%, and there can be influence 100%. And I think that there were definitely some things that happened in that game, and especially from an official standpoint, where you could look at that and say, yeah, there definitely could possibly be some influence here to try to swing something a certain way. And I think there was, but it wasn't to the point where like the Steelers couldn't win the game. The Steelers had the opportunity. They got quite a few interceptions there. Shedeur had some bad interceptions that put the Steelers in field position. Boswell missed a couple field goals. Like, they had the opportunities to score points and win games. And they win the game, and they didn't. So people can say if DK was there, they would have won. I simply don't care. They should have won regardless if he was there or not. I don't care. You're playing a 3-win football team. I don't care that they're the Browns. I don't care. And they seemed more integrated about making sure Myles Garrett didn't get a sack record. I'm sorry. Yeah. They looked scared. They looked petrified by it. Arthur Smith, I don't understand. Why are you so afraid? Let him have the damn record. Who cares? Good for him. Yeah. He's not accomplishing anything in his career.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? The focus should be on winning your division. Who cares if Garrett gets a sack record? He'll probably get it this weekend. Who cares?
Well, I don't think Rodgers wanted to be on that poster.
Well, you know what? At the end of the day, Aaron, do you care about a sack record, or do you want to try and have one more run for yourself? That's the way I look at it.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree one bit. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk about this upcoming game, get into the injury report and our predictions. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors. Hey, and welcome back, everybody. Before we get back into the conversation, I want to remind you guys of our website, steelcurtainnetwork.com, your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage. Go check it out when you are done listening to this, where you can see our articles, become a part of the conversation, check in, create a profile, and comment. So before we get into it, yes, there was some breaking news earlier. Kenny Gainwell was the team's MVP. Are you surprised by the team MVP announcing Kenny Gainwell as the MVP? I'll tell you what, he was the MVP in my fantasy team. He was co-MVP, him and McCaffrey and Njigba really helped me out this year. Which, by the way, for those that didn't know, I actually won in both my leagues.
Wow, both
Yeah,
two.
both leagues.
Kudos,
I
bro.
championed in both leagues, in the one with yours and one with Steel Curtain Network.
Nice.
Yeah, I had a couple of the same players, McCaffrey, Njigba, Olave, and then kind of had a mixture of other players. But those guys really helped me out this year.
Yes, yes, they did. You were the best team and most consistent team in my league this season, and you finished it out. So,
I ain't
but
gonna
hey,
lie,
winning
man.
two. I mean, that's tough to do, man.
It is. It is. And I ain't gonna lie, man. I got kind of nervous. I thought Devin was gonna take me out there at the end. It got close. I think at the end of it, I think I had one player left, which was McCaffrey, and he was up by, I think he was up by like 18 points at that point, and he had two other players that were going to play. One person had one catch, DJ Moore, and McCaffrey just went off, and I won by like 6 or 7. It was like I even told my wife that day. I was like, "Yeah, I didn't win." It came back. It came back.
Yeah, you
So
did. Yeah, you did. That's
I'll take it.
definitely a W, bro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so it was fun. The other one I had to wait until Monday night for the Monday night game to end to figure it out if I was going to win that one. But
Yeah, yours was pretty much sealed Sunday night.
Yep, it was over with. And so, but the other one I had to wait till Monday. And now, that was the most stress I've ever had in a week of football in a while.
Between the Steeler game, between your fantasy leagues,
All across the board, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, probably the Ravens game Saturday night.
Yeah. And so we'll see. Now I don't have to worry about that. At least I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But
so that made you feel a little better.
So what did you think about Kenny G though, being the MVP? It's not Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, no, it's definitely deserved. I definitely think he's been their most valuable player, especially offensively. Who would have thought somebody on the vet minimum would have amounted to that? He's only 26, so he's still fairly young. But he was such a big part of what they did, and it was really, I think, the first time fully in his career that he was really able to showcase himself in that manner. He's always kind of been an RB2, RB3 guy, and even though on the depth chart he's RB2, he definitely showed, hey, I mean, he can be a reliable guy. So he'll definitely get probably a decent contract this offseason, wherever that may be. But pretty crazy having a guy on a 1-year vet minimum deal getting voted team MVP for his contributions and what he's done, man. I mean, he's had so many big plays for them and big catches. Even in some of Warren's absence there, didn't skip a beat. So definitely great for him. Best year of his career, and he'll get a good paycheck.
What do you think? How do you think Warren is taking it? I know he's, probably publicly, putting it out there like, he's all for it. They're teammates, they're boys. But inside, how do you think he feels? I mean, he's, in my opinion, he was better back than Najee last couple of years. And this year, his backup gets the team MVP. And in many cases gets more of the carries. And I think a lot of people have thought that maybe perhaps outside of that one diving catch that Kenny did on the floor there, that they would have expected a lot of the same type of production from Jalen Warren had he had the touches in those moments. What does this say for a guy like Jalen Warren?
Well, he's a competitor, so I'm sure that whenever you're on a team playing sports, you always you want the opportunities, and in this case, Jalen probably wants more of those touches, but got to understand what he's bringing to the table too, and I think it makes them one of the better running back duos in the league, and that should be something that's taken with pride and knowing that you guys both are viewed in that realm. He's under another year of contract, so it's gonna be interesting to see. Do the Steelers offer Gainwell a decent contract? Will Gainwell get a better contract somewhere else than here? I don't know. But I don't want to say there's jealousy there. There's probably just a competitive aspect there. But at the end of the day, Gainwell made those plays and Jalen Warren didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
hey, Jalen Warren's has had a few negative plays this year too, man. He's had some potential costly fumbles, and he's had a tad bit of an injury bug there earlier in the year that got Gainwell some opportunities. I mean, that's the way it goes.
That's true. That's true. You can only do what you can do.
Big contract. He's not this star player. I mean, he's a solid back. I think that he's capable of being a lower end RB1. But when you're able to have two guys that can both receive out of the backfield and a guy like Kenneth Gainwell who can line up, that's super valuable.
Yeah.
You're
I agree.
trying to win. So I think Jalen Warren's a good teammate. I don't think it's anything that's ill-willed of him. Sure, there's a competitive nature there of wanting more opportunity, of course. I think anybody does, but I definitely think they're one of the better running back duos in the league, and they both understand their role, and that should be something that you're happy to be viewed as in the league,
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, I see it the same way. I think that he's probably more happy for him than anything else. And
yeah.
He's going to get a bag. I hope it's with the Steelers because they could, continue to utilize his services.
So what do you think that means for Caleb Johnson?
Well, here's the thing. I still think that Kenny G and Jalen Warren are like the same back. I think they need a bigger back. I think they need more of somebody that can handle more of the first and second down runs type of thing. Not saying that Kenny Gainwell and Jalen Warren can't. I just think that I still think that they could use somebody like Caleb Johnson. Now, I don't know if there's going to be room in the future if Caleb ends up going off for both Jalen and Kenny. Outside of maybe this next upcoming year, I think you're going to want to keep them all three together. But if Kenny goes off again, I can see them, this upcoming year in 2026, 2027 being a year where those two backs, Jalen and Kenny, are it might be their last 2 years together. To be honest with you, I think you would probably need a bigger back still.
Yeah.
So it's just filling in the thing. I mean, it's like right now how the Steelers have a lot of good like little receivers. They need that.
Everybody's under 5'10".
Yeah, they lost their big receiver, and then there's Marcus Valdez-Scantling, but I don't trust the guy.
Absolutely,
he makes me,
dude.
He makes me hold. Yeah, he reminds me of Hayward Bay. Like every time they threw the ball,
he reminds me of Moncrief, bro.
Well, he's not that bad. I mean, the balls haven't tipped into other people's hands yet.
But the guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's running a wrong route, dude. And this is crunch time, bro. And honestly, it's Aaron's fault for targeting him 3 times. Shouldn't have been.
I don't disagree there.
Shouldn't have been that way. I understand they used to be teammates, but you could have made the case that Jalen Warren Jalen Warren was kind of open there in the middle part of the field on the last play.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And so let's look at the injury report. So the Steelers.
Oh, and also, by the way, it's also Omar Khan's fault as well. They decided not to do anything for 2 straight years to get another wide receiver, by the way.
Oh, I agree. I think everybody's, 100%.
Absolutely disgusting. Just disgusting work, honestly. Don't understand it, never will. So.
And so let's look at the injury report. So the Steelers don't have anybody on the injury report with a game status designee. So everybody's going to be healthy. This is the healthiest they have been all season. And they don't have DK, but that's not due to health reasons. That's due to the suspension. But Aaron Rodgers, he's been a full participant. He's going to play. Calvin Austin, he's been a full participant. He's going to play. Brandon Eccles, Pierre, these guys are also guys that have been full participant this week. They're going to play. And the big one, TJ Watt, he's been a full participant. He's going to play in this game. He's been off for the last few weeks. Took the puncture to the lung, doing some dry needling therapy or some sort of thing like that. Ended up puncturing his lung. He's back. Fortunate for him and the Steelers that he's back now. He talked in the media not too long ago, and it came off as talking about he feels great, feels healthy as he's been in a while, especially at this late of the season. I would anticipate that being true because he's taken some time off there to rehab the lung. that must have had a positive influence on some of the other injuries that he was dealing with at the time of his injury, that he's now probably um, kind of, I would assume gotten over better had he just been continued to play through them. And so I anticipate seeing a rejuvenated TJ Watt this week. I'm not going to say we're going to see prime TJ, but I would say I would anticipate seeing a better TJ than we saw when he left the field last, limping off the field. Not necessarily the injury that it took him out for the last few weeks had anything to do with his limp, but he was limping, and from what I understand, is he's been dealing with some other injuries. Shouldn't be dealing with those anymore. How big is TJ Watt being back on this team for this game?
Well, it's definitely huge. I mean, TJ Watt's TJ Watt. Everybody can have their frustrations and their opinions about where he's at right now in his career. But having him there and listen, you got to credit Alex Highsmith, man. That can be a conversation we get into here in a bit. But TJ Watt being back, hey, like I think the Steelers with everything on the line here will take anybody they can get. So we can all make the jokes, it wouldn't matter, or TJ's been invisible all year anyway, or whatever you want to make about his season this year. The lung thing's not his fault. It's not his fault. Unfortunately, it happened. It is what it is. But with that being said, obviously it's still huge having one of your top guys there for your final game with everything on the line, and hopefully he can make a big play, man. And do TJ Watt things that we haven't really seen a whole lot this season. You're muted, brother.
I hope so too. Sorry about that. I hope so too. We're going to need him. At the end of the day, it's a situation where he's not been the healthiest come playoff time or the end of the season because of the long season, and here of recent because of the offense, not being able to get off the field and the defense being on the field for an extended period of time. This should be the healthiest he's been. I expect to see some sort of impact. He's going to be going up against Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson doesn't have an injury designee either. He's going to be back into the game. Some folks, I guess, outside of Baltimore, are maybe inside of Baltimore are happy that Lamar's back. Or I know that some folks outside of Baltimore are happy that Lamar's back. Who would you have rather played? Who would you have rather seen against the Steelers this week? Again, Huntley, who under Huntley, the Ravens have been able to run the ball a lot better and stuck with it, or Lamar Jackson, where you think there's a good chance that they're going to try to put the ball in his hands, and he's been dealing with a bunch of injuries this year that might hinder his mobility.
Yeah,
what do you think is the
kind of been an ongoing kind of debate this week with fans? I think overall, I think the Steelers would rather see Lamar, just given the fact that they've seen him more than they've seen Tyler Huntley. And Lamar, we know what he's been this year. We know some of those ongoing issues. I understand he had a full participation this week, kind of his first full participation week, I think, in really a handful of weeks. It doesn't take away that he isn't going to be able to do this or, doubting the guy. It's just more so, I think, that familiarity. I think more so in terms of especially really how he plays at Acrisure Stadium against this team. There's more, rather with Tyler Huntley, I think with Lamar, there's just better preparation, in my opinion, for the Steelers than with facing Tyler Huntley, who I think you really have only played a couple times. So with that being said, you want to go with Lamar. I think if you're the Steelers, Lamar this year, not only has he been banged up, but he's played poor. He's played poor. He hasn't run the ball the way that he usually does. He is somebody where whenever in context of facing the Steelers, he's made a lot of poor decisions. And the Steelers, I can't really remember his record against the Steelers as of late, outside of the playoff game, but more specifically, I guess at Acrisure or whatever. But I think for those reasons is probably why fans or the Steelers would probably want to face Lamar more. I really feel like that with what we've seen, how we've seen him play for the times he's played out here. I mean, he's definitely he's definitely not prone for making mistakes, especially when you have that pressure there on him. I don't know how much he's really going to use his legs or how much they're going to game plan for him using his legs. Tyler Huntley, on the other hand, um, fresh legs are fresh, no injuries this year, and Derrick Henry got 30-some carries. When you're able to kind of offset each other like that, that's exactly why we saw last year why the Ravens had the rushing attack they did. Lamar this year, I think he only has like one rushing touchdown. So he's been very ineffective this season as a runner, and that probably has something to do as well with the Derrick Henry issues that the Ravens had throughout a lot of the season. So that can be something as well that goes in the Steelers case. So
True story, man. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Who are your game changers of the game? Who has to have a really big game on offense and defense for the Steelers to win this game for you? And then I'll let you know what mine are.
yeah, it's a great question. I'd say offensively, honestly, the Steelers running the football, just given the fact of both guys, honestly, Gainwell and Jalen Warren. No DK Metcalf. The Steelers really don't have a threat offensively. They decided to use Pat Freiermuth toward the last 50 seconds of the game last week. So I'm going to say the Steelers being able to run the ball efficiently, being able to get push up front without Isaac Seumalo being back. Not having Darnell is probably going to hurt a little bit in that realm. But just being able to probably maintain your offense on the field, being able to probably rely less on the Thielens and the MVSs and even the Calvin Austins, the better that you're probably going to find yourself in. So I think being able to run the football at an efficient rate is huge for them offensively this week. Defensively, I'm going to say our pass rush. Alex Highsmith has been great these last 7 weeks. He has shown his value. Nick Herbig is back fully healthy. TJ Watt probably is going to play every snap. But I'm going to say the Steelers pass rush. I think really the pass rush getting to Lamar, trying to force his hand, possibly forcing a turnover to give the Steelers good position. That's big. Jack Sawyer's had a good couple games where has shown a lot of good things just within that short time frame. We can sit and say defensively the linebackers or the defensive line, whatever, in terms of Derrick Henry, but I think the fact of with Lamar playing, I don't think that he's really going to rely on his legs too much. I think really what we're going to see Sunday night is probably what we're going to see what we've gotten with Lamar throughout most of the year. So with that being said, I think really getting him on his ass, and taking away those opportunities to run the football and putting him in more situations of longer yardage and everything like that. I think that's going to be key.
Yeah, good points, man. I think for me, my keys to victory are going to be, on the offensive side, I think they're going to have to push the ball down the field. I think the defense are going to try to keep everything short. They're going to try to target the running backs. They're going to try to, take everything underneath. Now I don't think they're going up against the Cleveland Browns defense in Baltimore. I think they're a lot more susceptible to being passed on, especially because I don't think they got the bookends, the defensive ends like the Cleveland Browns do. And so I think that Rodgers should have a little bit more time. So my biggest thing is Pat Freiermuth and maybe perhaps Calvin Austin are going to have a big game here if they're going to want to win. So that way they can kind of get the defense to relax a little bit, push back a little bit, so that way they can have some running lanes. Because if I'm the Baltimore defense, all I'm going to do, knowing that DK is not in the game, is crowd the line of scrimmage, play press defense, probably man up, which man has been a very difficult thing for the Steelers wide receivers and Aaron Rodgers. He's been a lot better this year in zone, and I think it has a lot to do with the receivers that they have aren't man beaters. They're not fast outside of Calvin Austin. When you have MVS, you have Thielen, you have a bunch of tight ends. They're not going to outrun a lot of people. Now, Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson, maybe perhaps you have some speed there, but Calvin Austin's been injured quite a bit, and he's easy to get off of time because of his size. And Roman Wilson, for whatever reason, the Pittsburgh Steelers just don't trust him, or Aaron Rodgers don't. One or the other.
That's a very interesting conversation with him.
Yeah, no idea why, but it is what it is. And so offensively, I think that they're going to have to push the ball down the field if they're going to want to win this game.
Yeah.
And then defensively, I'm thinking Derek Harmon and Cam Hayward are going to have a huge game. They're going to need to stop the Baltimore Ravens rushing attack and force the ball into Lamar's hands and make him throw the ball. And if they can do that, I think they got a good chance to win here. Kind of transitioning into the prediction aspect, Steelers are 4.5-point dogs at home. That's pretty disrespectful. I mean, the over and under is at 41.5. So basically, Vegas thinks that the Baltimore Ravens are going to blow out the Steelers and they're not going to score very many points. That's what it means. It's like 28 to like.
Hey, the Steelers did it to themselves, man. They could have won last week.
Yeah.
And wrap this thing up, bro. They could have did it last week. So it is what it is.
They could have. So, as much as I think that, yes, you're right, I do think that the game plan is different. I think that the Steelers offense matches up a lot better to the against the Baltimore Ravens defense, because I don't think the Ravens defense is very good, and so the Steelers have a chance without DK. I think they have a better chance to move the ball up and down the field on the Baltimore Ravens defense than they did against the Cleveland Browns defense, who was playing for something. Now, it'd been different if the Steelers got up on a few points or they took advantage of a couple of those interceptions that they either had or could have had. I think they could have easily demoralized the Cleveland Browns and probably end up putting a lot more points up on the board, but they allowed them to stick around and hang around and keep them in the game, their mind and their hearts. And we saw the outcome. Now, this game here is a playoff game, and that's the one thing that kind of concerns me. It's a playoff game, and Tomlin hasn't done great against playoff games. And this year in primetime outside of Monday Night Football, it's not been very great for the Steelers. And so, I think the cards are stacked up against the Steelers. Going into predictions, my heart tells me to go with the Steelers, but I'm going to go ahead and say that the Baltimore Ravens win this game 24-21.
Wow.
I didn't
think you were going to pick against them, man.
I just don't think that the Steelers at this point, it's one thing to do and to say and another thing to do. It's one thing to say, all right, you got to throw to Pat Freiermuth, throw over the middle, do all these things that you haven't done. And then for the Steelers team to actually do it. When you look at the head coach, this is a man that's lived in his fears, for the last, I don't know how many years. And he's become predictable, and the team has become predictable. They become easily manipulated, meaning that if you show certain looks, you can manipulate the Steelers into doing what it is that you want them to do based on the looks that you show them. And that's not going to win you many games. And at this point, I hope, my heart says the Steelers are going to pull it off, and I still think that they can. I think that this is a winnable game. As I mentioned before, I don't think the Baltimore Ravens defense is anything to be shaking about. I think that Lamar has not had the greatest season. Their receivers are, they're susceptible to some drops at the very least. And Henry, he's been up and down and has had some. He's put the ball on the ground a few times this year, and so I think that there's an opportunity here for the Steelers to win. I just don't think, I think they'll cover. I just don't think they're going to. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think they're going to make it. Yeah. What is your prediction?
Yeah, I'm on the same end with you, man. I don't really think either one of these teams are very good. They're both just middle of the pack. That's where the Steelers have been for a handful of years now. They're not good enough to get over the hump and get in a title game, but they're not bad enough to, just get a top 10 pick. So, and that's where they're at again this year. Whether they win 9 games or they win 10 games, that's where they're at this year. And a lot of fans want one or the other. It's bad. It's not good to be in that position where you're 8 or 9 wins. But the fact that Steelers have been in that position for 8 years now, it's not good. And it's hurt their chances in terms of their future and player development and everything. And listen, the Steelers have had some good drafts, I think, the last couple of years, all things considered, at least as we look at it right now. They've drafted some impact players. And the Steelers have made moves in free agency that they normally didn't do. But what's the common denominator here? We're looking at the way that we're looking at the coaching staff, right? We're looking at the way the teams ran. We're looking at in-game decisions, right? We're looking at preparation for these games. We're looking at them not being able to get the job done in certain games that are key. And those are the problems. But beside the point, I'm going with the Ravens to win as well. Just given, I think that there's just a lack offensively with DK not being there, with Darnell not being there. Derrick Henry running the football he's been great these last handful of weeks. I think with Lamar in there, it's a little bit of a different dynamic, as I was mentioning, really how he's been this season. But I expect it to be a close game. Really, no matter who plays in these games, it's usually a close game more times than not. I'll go 20-16.
There you go. Very, very likely outcome. And
yeah,
if the Steelers end up losing, they would have ended up with 9-8, which is right on par where everybody thought that they would be at the beginning of the
I
year.
think everybody kind of primarily thought anybody that said 4 or 5 wins, I think you're an idiot, honestly. Like the Steelers aren't that team. They're not ever going to finish that unless just everything just crap happens.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, people were in that 9 or 10 game realm, which is exactly where they're at. And if they would have won last week, they would have rested their starters this week, and it could have been likely that they finished 10-7. But enough's enough of just being mediocre. Enough's enough of it. It's been gone on for too long. The Steelers have held themselves back from trying to find a future quarterback. The market the last few years hasn't been good. The draft position hasn't been good for the Steelers to ideally get one. And this quarterback class this year is looking very weak. A lot of guys are returning to school. Maybe next year's the draft class. I don't know. And that's a whole nother topic for another day of quarterback situation for the Steelers. But I'm also, regardless how this game goes, I want to say another thing. I appreciate Aaron Rodgers. I think it's been fun seeing him in a Steeler uniform, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I think he's been a big part in games this team's won this year. I think he's brought in a level of leadership this team has not had, a level of accountability this team has not had. Aaron's also 42 years old. Aaron also wasn't given a lot to work with in terms of his offensive personnel. The Steelers get DK Metcalf. That's great. They did absolutely nothing to add to that. You're relying on Calvin Austin, who I've never been sold on. See you later. MVS Adam Thielen off the couch. And Skoranek, I guess, every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Pat Freiermuth's been a non-factor all year. Jonnu Smith's been a non-factor all year. Darnell Washington has kind of come into his own more, but it's not enough. If the Steelers went out this offseason, aside from DK Metcalf, and got a legitimate number 2, that would probably bring even a little bit more difference there. But they've ignored it for 2 straight years. And that's a massive issue. The tight end utilization that Arthur Smith supposedly loves has been a massive problem.
Yeah.
Pat Freiermuth is a middle of the field threat. Pat Freiermuth is your second best pass catcher behind DK Metcalf. And he is not utilized at all. So Pat Freiermuth's struggles is not all on him at all. Because you saw the plays he made his rookie year. You saw the plays he made that Thursday night game against the Bengals. You saw the way he was targeted those last 50 seconds of the game. I understand the Browns are playing a little bit of prevent defense there, but he's your second best pass catcher, and he was not used at all last game.
Yeah, no, you're right.
That's coaching. That's absolutely coaching. The Steelers wanted to substitute with 30 seconds left, and Aaron's screaming his head off of the sideline to not do it. There's no excuse for it. It is coaching malpractice. It is low IQ coaching. And that has been a massive issue the Steelers have had for years. They can never keep their coordinators. They can never find the answers at those positions. And we know the things with Mike Tomlin. We can respect his career. We can appreciate what he's done. But the game's passed him up, man. Modern day NFL has passed him up. Can he succeed somewhere else? Sure. but it's not here anymore.
I don't disagree with you, man. I don't disagree with you. And I think that we may end up seeing the end much sooner than later.
Yeah, and I wanted to get that out in case the Steelers do lose. That I wanted to show appreciation for Rodgers.
Yeah.
That the issue with the offense, the issue with the coaching, and hopefully we see needed changes in this offseason, because enough's enough, dude. I'm tired of watching the same season.
I think we all are. And we'll see. We'll see if the stubbornness comes to an end. Well, Nathan, I want to thank you so much for joining me. Everybody that's listening in and tuning in, please hit the like button, subscribe, 5-star rating if you're listening this to Apple. You know, we predicted that the Steelers are going to lose. That doesn't mean that we're hoping that they lose.
Right.
I'm fairly positive that we're all here, regardless of what our thoughts are. Because I mean, you can be realistic. You know,
Yep.
I can have a pretty nice Camaro, right? And then line up against a Bugatti. I can hope and wish all I want, but my
Yep.
stock Camaro is not going to beat it. You
Yep.
know, I mean, I could get lucky and the driver could suck and stall it or whatever the case may be. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it is what it is. Well, thank you guys. Stay tuned with us. I think we're gonna have the post-game show on the Steel Curtain Network. As always, go check out Nathan Heinz and In Hindsight and myself on Drunk Turkey Show and State of the Steelers. Until next time, guys, I'll see you guys then. For Nathan, I'm Daniel. We'll see y'all later. Peace out.